Welcome to Monk's Temple. Let's begin in a space of quiet. I invite you to let your eyes soften, to feel the weight of your body where it rests, and to notice the gentle rhythm of your breath. There's no need to change it. Just awareness. In and out. Often, in such stillness, the mind offers up its deepest questions. They arrive not as shouts, but as whispers from a concerned heart. One of the most persistent, the one that carries a chill of fear and a weight of judgment, is this simple, heavy word, sin. Have I sinned? Is this wrong? Will I be punished? This framework of transgression and divine judgment is a deep river in human culture. But tonight, let us explore a different landscape altogether. Let us walk a path where that word, sin, holds no meaning, not because actions lack consequence, but because the understanding of consequence is far more profound, intimate, and liberating. In the teachings of the Buddha, you will not find a list of sins. You will not find an almighty judge keeping a ledger. Instead, you will discover a universe operating on a principle as natural and impersonal as gravity. This principle is called karma. But to understand karma, we must first gently set aside the idea of sin. Sin, in its traditional sense, is a legal concept within a relationship, a breaking of divine law. It implies a lawgiver and an external forgiveness. Buddhism presents a universe not of law and judgment, but of cause and seed, of intention and natural result. Let me share with you a story from my early days, a simple moment that first cracked open this understanding for me. I was a novice, just a few weeks into monastic life, thrilled by the ritual and eager to be perfect. My task one morning was to arrange the offering bowls in the main hall. There were 21 bowls, each to be placed precisely, filled with fresh water, aligned in straight rows. I performed the task with intense focus, but my mind was a storm. Don't mess up. The senior monk is watching. Make it perfect. Be the best novice. My hands moved carefully, but my heart was clenched with anxiety and pride. Afterwards, the old kitchen master, a monk who spoke maybe 3 words a day, nodded to me. I felt a flush of accomplishment. But he said, "The bowls are straight. But your mind was crooked while placing them." He walked away. I stood there, stunned. The action was correct, even commendable. But the intention, laced with insecurity and desire for praise, was a different thing entirely. That, he was saying, was the real action. That was the seed being planted. The straightness of the bowls was temporary. The kink of anxiety and pride in my mind, that would follow me. That was my first visceral lesson. Karma is not about the external perfection of the deed. It is about the internal climate in which the deed is born. If this way of seeing things resonates with you, if it brings a sense of clarity, please consider subscribing to Monk's Temple. Your subscription is a gentle nod of support, helping this sanctuary of words remain a place of contemplation for all who seek it. So, what is this framework that asks us to look not at the act, but at the heart behind the act? Let us imagine your consciousness not as a soul being graded, but as a boundless, sensitive canvas. Every intention you generate is like a brushstroke on that canvas. A stroke of compassion has a certain texture and color. It is smooth, warm, expansive. A stroke of anger has a different texture. It is jagged, hot, contracting. You are the only painter. The canvas simply receives the stroke and, in receiving it, changes its overall landscape. The feeling you experience in your life is the experience of standing back and observing the painting you are, in each moment, creating. There is no art critic in the sky declaring it good or bad. There is only the law of aesthetics. Harmonious strokes create a feeling of peace within the viewer, who is you. Chaotic, clashing strokes create a feeling of distress. This is the law of karma. It is the natural result of the materials you choose to use. Now, let us explore this through a story, one of many we will visit tonight. In a village famous for its clay, there were two potters. They dug their clay from the same riverbank. They used the same wheel, the same kiln. The first potter, Anya, worked with a heart full of gratitude for the earth and a wish for her pots to bring ease to those who used them. As she centered the clay, she thought of stability. As she shaped the walls, she thought of containment and usefulness. Her songs while she worked were old songs of blessing. The second potter, Ben, was skilled but driven. He worked with thoughts of competition, of outselling Anya, of being known as the best. His hands were just as clever, but his mind was calculating, his heart tight with ambition. When the kiln was opened after the firing, a curious thing was seen. Anya's pots had a gentle, radiant glow. They felt solid yet light in the hand. Ben's pots were technically flawless, symmetrical, but they felt brittle, cold to the touch. Villagers, without knowing why, preferred Anya's pots. They said water from her jars tasted sweeter, food from her bowls seemed more nourishing. The clay was the same. The fire was the same. The difference was imparted by the consciousness of the potter during creation. The intention, the mental and emotional energy, woven into the process became a subtle property of the finished object. This is a metaphor for how we shape our lives. We are all potters at the wheel of our moments. The quality of our intention becomes the unseen, yet felt, quality of our resulting experience. This is the first pillar of understanding. Karma is rooted in intention. The Buddha said it plainly, intention, I tell you, is karma. Before a word is spoken, before an action is taken, there is a movement of the mind. That movement is the seed. The word or deed is the sprout. The result in your life and heart is the fruit. We must learn to be gardeners of that initial, silent movement. Let us continue. Find your breath again. Notice its rhythm, a gentle tide within. We have spoken of intention as the seed. Now, we must understand the ground in which it grows, a universe governed not by judgment, but by an unwavering natural law. This is the law of cause and effect, or kamanayama. It is as fundamental as the law that governs the sprouting of a seed. It is not a moral rule imposed from above. It is a description of reality, as factual as fire being hot. Imagine a vast, silent laboratory of existence. In this laboratory, every volitional act, every seed of intention you plant, enters a complex, flawless ecosystem of results. Positive cause, positive effect. Negative cause, negative effect. It is a law of correspondence. An acorn does not produce a maple tree. A moment of malice cannot, by the very nature of reality, blossom into lasting peace. The result is intimately, inseparably tied to the quality of its origin. This understanding is crucial. Karma is not fate. It is not a pre-written script you are doomed to enact. That would be a prison. Instead, see it as a dynamic, living process. The past has sown seeds, yes. Your present mind, your awareness, your choices in this moment, is the sunlight, the water, the soil that nourishes some seeds and allows others to lie dormant. You are not a prisoner of yesterday's planting. You are the gardener of today's garden. Let me share a story to illustrate this fluid power. In a parched land, two neighbors dug wells. The first, Elena, dug with care and a wish to share. As she worked, she thought, may this water relieve the thirst of all. When her well found water, it was sweet, clear, and abundant. The second neighbor, David, dug with resentment. I need my own water so I don't have to ask anyone, he thought, his mind fixed on separation and lack. His well, though technically just as deep, produced water that was slightly brackish and scarce. A great drought came. Elena's well continued to flow. She shared freely, and a community gathered around it, creating a small oasis of mutual aid. David, hoarding his bitter water, found himself alone, his supply dwindling, his heart parched. The initial intention, the consciousness behind the digging, did not change the physical act of digging. But it seemingly influenced the quality of what was found and, more clearly, shaped the world that formed around the result. Elena's intention of connectedness created a reality of connection. David's intention of separation created a reality of isolation. The law of karma worked not as a punishment, but as a natural unfolding of the energy embedded in the original cause. The drought was the same for both, their capacity to meet it was forged by their own past intentions. This leads to the heart of Buddhist responsibility. It is inescapably personal. You cannot outsource the tending of your inner landscape. No divine intervention can extract the thorn you yourself planted. This responsibility, however, is not a heavy chain of guilt. It is the key to your agency. It proclaims that your next thought, your next word, your next silent intention, is a point of profound power. You are shaping your future experience with the quality of your present heart. Now, consider the element of time. When do these results manifest? The Buddha spoke of different ripening periods. Some fruits are immediate, didadhamavadania. Speak a harsh word, feel the immediate burn in your own chest, see the wound in another's eyes, that is the intrinsic result, inseparable from the act itself. Other results may ripen later in life, or beyond, just as a peach pit takes years to become a fruit-bearing tree, upapajavadania. And some complex karmic potentials may only manifest if specific conditions converge, apraparyavadania, like a seed that requires a forest fire to germinate. The wise person does not become a paranoid accountant, trying to predict every future karmic dividend. That leads to fear and confusion. The wise person focuses on the cause they can control, the present intention. Tend to the seed in your hand now. The future will unfold from that quality. Let's explore this with another original parable. A master woodcarver taught two apprentices. To the first, he said, carve this block of cedar into a bowl. Focus only on the final shape. The apprentice worked, measuring, cutting, focused solely on the external form. The bowl was perfect in symmetry but felt cold, inert. To the second apprentice, he gave an identical block. His instruction was different: as you carve, feel the life of the tree that gave this wood. Thank it. Imagine the hands that will hold this bowl, the food it will carry. Let your knife be a companion to the wood's potential. This apprentice worked slowly, his touch respectful. The bowl he produced had the same dimensions, but it felt warm, alive, inviting to the touch. The master explained, the first bowl is a product of isolation. The mind that made it was separate from the wood and the future user. The second bowl is a product of relationship. That relationship was the intention. The wood recorded the difference. Our lives are that block of wood. Our daily intentions are the carver's touch. The shape of our experience carries the quality of that touch. Whether it was one of mechanistic isolation or compassionate relationship. This is the second pillar. The law of cause and effect is impersonal and infallible. It operates with the consistency of nature itself. Your freedom lies not in appealing the law, but in learning its principles and becoming a skillful gardener, a wise carver, within its boundless field. Let us move deeper now, into the very heart of this teaching. We've seen that intention is the seed, and natural law is the ground. But what grows? What is the fruit we speak of? In Buddhism, the fruit of karma is not a reward or punishment handed to you. It is an experience, a flavor of consciousness itself. It is the quality of your own mind, the texture of your own life. The Buddha's primary concern was dukkha, suffering, stress, unsatisfactoriness, and its end. Karma explains the mechanics of how we create dukkha for ourselves, and how we create its opposite, peace, clarity, and freedom. Think of your mind as a vast, sensitive instrument, like a lute. Every intentional action is like plucking a string. Pluck it with the force of greed, and it produces a discordant, grating sound that vibrates through your entire being, that is dukkha. Pluck it with the touch of generosity, and it produces a harmonious, resonant note, that is peace. The lute does not judge the musician. It only transmits the energy of the pluck into sound. You are both the musician and the one who must hear the music. Karma is the law of acoustics for the instrument of your life. This brings us to a beautiful and practical concept: karma is workable. It is not a fixed, frozen destiny. Because it is a process dependent on conditions, we can learn to change the conditions. We can learn to play a different song. The entire Noble Eightfold Path is the manual for this retuning. Let's explore this with a story about change. High on a mountain was a pure, sweet spring. Over many years, a traveler used the pool below it as a place to wash his dirty clothes, his tools stained with grime, and even to discard waste. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, the pool became muddy and polluted. The spring's water still flowed clean from the rock, but it immediately mixed with the filth in the pool, becoming undrinkable. The man, now thirsty, bemoaned his fate. The spring has turned against me. It gives bitter water. A wise hermit pointed to the pool, not the spring. The source is still pure, she said. You have polluted the vessel. The spring is not punishing you. You are experiencing the natural result of your own actions upon the vessel. Stop putting filth in. Begin the long, patient work of cleaning the pool. Scoop out the mud. Let fresh water flush the stagnation. It will take time and effort, but the water will clear, for the source has never changed. Our inherent awareness, our Buddha nature, is like that pure spring. It is always there, uncontaminated. Our karmic actions, our habits of mind, speech, and body, are like the pollutants we add to the pool of our lived experience. The suffering we feel is not a judgment on our core being. It is the natural experience of drinking from a pool we have muddied. The path of practice is the diligent, patient cleaning of the pool, stopping the addition of new pollutants, unwholesome actions, and actively purifying the old ones, through mindfulness and cultivation of their opposites. Now, let us consider a common concern, the weight of past actions. If the pool is very muddy, is the task hopeless? The Buddhist answer is a resounding no. The possibility of purification exists in every moment. The most polluted pool can be cleaned. The most discordant instrument can be retuned. This is because the most powerful karmic factor is the present intention. A single moment of genuine, heartfelt turning, what we might call repentance or wise regret, is itself a powerful seed of purification. It is the first scoop of mud removed from the pool. Here is a story of profound transformation. There was a blacksmith named Cora who was known for her fierce temper. When anger took her, she would work it into the metal, beating it with harsh, violent blows. The tools she made in such states, though strong, were brittle, prone to snapping under pressure. They carried a kind of angry tension. One day, a tool she had forged in rage failed a farmer at a critical moment, causing loss. Seeing the consequence of her carried anger, Cora was filled not with more anger, but with a deep, clarifying remorse. She saw the direct link between the fire in her heart and the flaw in the metal. She didn't just vow to do better. She changed her practice. Before lighting the forge each morning, she would sit quietly and breathe with the bellows, synchronizing her breath to its rise and fall, calming her mind. When heating the metal, she would hold the intention, may this become a vessel for strength, not violence. Her strikes became measured, focused, precise. The tools she now produced held a different quality, resilient, trustworthy, balanced. The old, brittle tools from her past still existed in the world, and their flaws might still manifest. That was the past karma coming to fruit. But she was no longer creating new karma of that nature. She had changed the source. She had mastered the bellows of her own breath and intention. The future was being forged from a different, cooler fire. This illustrates the third pillar. Karma is malleable through present moment awareness and intentional action. You are not defined by your past seeds. You are defined by your relationship to them in the present. Are you watering the seeds of anger with more angry thoughts? Or are you watering the seeds of patience with mindful breathing? Your choice in this very instant is your point of power. Let's end this part with a contemplative metaphor. Imagine you are a painter, but you are painting on a canvas that is already covered with layers of old paintings, the karmic impressions of your past. Some areas are dark and chaotic, some are light and beautiful. You cannot scrape the canvas clean. But you have a brush in your hand now, and fresh paint. You can choose to add new strokes. A master painter does not fight the old layers. She incorporates them, transforms them. A dark patch can become the shadow that gives depth to a new, luminous figure. A chaotic smear can become the textured background for a scene of peace. Your present moment intention is your brush. Your mindful actions are your strokes. You are not erasing the past, you are creatively integrating it into a new, more skillful masterpiece of your life. This is the hopeful heart of the teaching. Every moment is a fresh opportunity to apply a new stroke. No past mistake can disqualify you from beginning again, right now. Let's settle into a space of receptive curiosity. We've explored karma as seed, as law, and as a workable process. Now, let's address what might feel like a shadow in the room. What about the big things? The terrible, harmful actions people commit? Does the concept of karma just explain them away, or does it take them more seriously than any system of judgment could? In a framework of sin, a terrible act makes one a sinner, a label often attached to the person's essence. The focus can become the status of the soul. In the framework of karma, the focus remains unflinchingly on the cause and the consequence. A horrific act is seen as the tragic, powerful fruition of roots of greed, hatred, and delusion that have grown unchecked, perhaps for a very long time. The person committing it is not first a sinner, but a being in the grip of immense, suffering-producing mental forces. They will, without exception, experience the devastating consequences of those forces. The inner hell of a mind consumed by such states, and the external reverberations of their actions. The karma is in the clinging to the poison, not in a divine sentence. But here is where Buddhism reveals its ultimate compassion and its radical belief in the potential for change. No being is irredeemable because no habit is unchangeable. As long as consciousness exists, the possibility for turning toward the light exists. The cause, the poisoned root, can be uprooted. This is not forgiveness in the sense of an external pardon. It is something more demanding and more profound, transformation. Let me tell you a story about a profound turning. There was a river that flowed through a dark, narrow canyon. For years, a bitter wind blew through the gorge, so constant and cold that the surface of the river froze into a thick, jagged plate of ice. The water beneath still flowed, but its movement was hidden, its sound silenced. The ice was so thick it could bear the weight of stones thrown upon it. It seemed permanent, the very nature of the river. One year, the wind shifted. A warmer breeze, gentle but persistent, found its way into the canyon. It did not attack the ice. It simply persisted, day after day, bathing the frozen surface in a new, softer air. Slowly, the ice began to sweat. Then to thaw. Cracks appeared. With time and the constant presence of the warm breeze, the entire frozen plate broke apart, melted, and joined the flow of the river again. The river had always been capable of flow, it was trapped by a persistent, external condition of cold. The frozen heart, burdened by the heavy ice of past harmful actions, is like this. The warmth of mindful awareness, of metta, loving kindness, is that gentle, persistent breeze. It does not rage against the ice. It simply applies a new condition, consistently. Under that condition, the frozen patterns, the hatred, the rigidity, cannot hold. They begin to release. The inherent capacity for flow, for life, reasserts itself. The thawing is the purification. It is often a slow process, but it is a law of nature. Ice cannot persist in a sustained warmth. This is why Buddhist practice emphasizes the cultivation of the antidote. You don't just try to stop being angry. You actively cultivate loving kindness. You don't just try to stop being greedy. You actively practice generosity. You replace the cold wind with a warm breeze. The old karma is not erased, its energy is met, understood, and transformed by a greater, opposing force. Now, let's bring this to the level of our daily lives with a practical story. A royal messenger was tasked with carrying a sealed scroll to a neighboring kingdom. The journey was long, through forests and over mountains. On the third day, as he camped, a bandit robbed him, taking his food, his horse, and even his cloak. The messenger was left with nothing but the scroll. Furious and despairing, he sat by the cold ashes of his fire. Two paths opened in his mind. The first was a path of hatred, to let the rage consume him, to march forward fueled by thoughts of vengeance, to see the whole world as hostile. This intention would make him tense, suspicious, likely to misinterpret further events as attacks, poisoning his mission and his health. The second path was one of clarity, to see the bandit as a suffering being, acting from delusion and need. To feel the fear and anger in his own heart, acknowledge it, but not let it steer. To focus on the duty that remained, delivering the scroll. This intention would foster resilience, alertness, and a compassionate caution. The robbery was a past event, a seed planted by the bandit. The messenger's impending suffering was not sealed. It would be determined by the new seeds he planted in response, seeds of hatred or seeds of mindful duty. His karma in that moment was not the robbery. It was his relationship to the robbery. Our lives are filled with such messenger moments. The external event is often out of our control. Our internal response, the seed we plant next, is our karmic sovereignty. This understanding dissolves the victim mindset. It doesn't blame you for the bandit's action. It empowers you with your response. You are responsible for your inner climate, regardless of the weather outside. Let's conclude this part with a metaphor for the journey. The path of understanding karma is like learning to sail. You are the captain of a ship, your mind and body, on a vast ocean, the world of conditions. The wind and currents, past karma and present external events, are powerful forces you did not create. A poor captain blames the wind, fights the current, and is tossed about, miserable. A skilled captain learns the laws of sailing. She observes the wind, her thoughts, adjusts the sails, her intentions, and uses the rudder, her mindful actions, to navigate. She cannot control the ocean, but she can learn to sail skillfully within it, moving toward a destination of peace. The ocean is not punishing or rewarding her. It is simply the medium in which she exercises her skill. Your suffering is not a punishment for sin. It is the feedback that you are, for now, sailing unskillfully. The teachings of the Buddha are the navigation charts. Let us journey onward, into a landscape that often causes confusion, the social and collective dimension of karma. We have spoken of karma as intensely personal, and it is. You experience your own. But we do not live in isolation. Our karmic streams flow together, merge, and create shared experiences, families, societies, even the feeling of an era. How does this work? Imagine a great, ancient forest. Each tree is an individual life, with its own roots, drawing its own nutrients, growing toward its own light. This is your personal karma. But underground, the root systems intertwine, communicating, sharing resources, and sometimes competing. Above ground, the canopy creates a shared microclimate, shade, humidity, protection from storms. This is collective karma. A drought, a shared condition, will affect every tree, but a deeply rooted oak will fare better than a shallow-rooted sapling. A blight, a shared negative tendency, may sweep through, affecting trees already in a state of weakness. The forest is a network of individual and shared conditions. Your personal practice is about strengthening your own roots and extending your canopy of kindness, which positively affects the shared climate. But you are also affected by the climate created by the collective intentions of those around you. This is not a violation of personal karma, it is its complex interaction. Let's explore this with a story. Two villages lay in the same valley, separated by a hill. Each was fed by a spring that became a stream. In village A, the elders taught, the stream is life. Keep its banks clean. Take only what you need. Share its water fairly. This intention of care and respect became a cultural norm. The stream ran clear. The fields were fertile. Disputes were rare, resolved with a mind toward the common good. In village B, a different teaching took hold: the stream is a resource to be exploited. Secure as much water for yourself as you can. Your neighbor's gain is your loss. This intention of scarcity and competition became the norm. People built secret dams, polluted the banks, hoarded water. The stream grew muddy and unpredictable. The fields suffered. Suspicion and conflict were constant. A traveler walking from village B to village A would cross a small hill and step into a different world. The air felt different. The faces of the people were different. This was not because the sun shone differently, but because the collective karma, the sum total of the dominant intentions and actions, created an entirely different experiential reality. An individual born in village B inherits that climate of mistrust. Their personal karma is to learn to navigate it, and perhaps, by planting seeds of a new intention, to begin to change their small corner of the stream. Change often starts with one person deciding to clean their own section of the bank. This shows why the Buddha placed such emphasis on Sangha, community. Surrounding yourself with those who are cultivating wholesome intentions is like planting your tree in a healthier part of the forest. It supports your own growth. Your personal practice of morality, sila, is not just for you, it is a gift to the collective karma of your family, your workplace, your world. Each act of honesty adds a drop of clarity to the shared stream. Now, let's consider a more intimate collective. Relationships. They are potent theaters of karmic interplay. Two people, Leo and Maya, shared a deep but difficult friendship. In a moment of misunderstanding, Leo spoke a cutting word. That word, born of Leo's momentary frustration, was a karmic seed he planted. It landed in the fertile soil of Maya's own insecurities. She reacted with a withdrawal of cold silence, a seed she planted. Now a knot was tied. The next interaction started from this knot of hurt. Leo, sensing Maya's coldness, became defensive, planting another seed of distance. Maya, seeing his defensiveness, felt justified in her silence, planting another seed of separation. The knot tightened. This is relational karma, a co-creation. Who owns the knot? Both do. It exists in the space between them, fed by both streams of intention. To untie it requires one person to stop pulling their end of the string tighter. It requires one to, with great courage and mindfulness, plant a completely new seed into the space between them, a seed of vulnerable apology, or of gentle inquiry, or of simple, warm presence without demand. That new seed can change the entire climate of the relationship. It doesn't guarantee the other will respond instantly, but it breaks the old, toxic pattern. It offers a new possibility. In relationships, you are responsible for the seeds you bring to the shared space. You cannot control the other's seeds, but you can always choose to stop planting thorns and start planting flowers. This leads to a critical point. karma is not a tool for blame. It is tragically misused if we look at someone's suffering and say, "That's their karma," with a cold or superior heart. That is a gross misunderstanding. The compassionate understanding is, they are experiencing the results of causes. How can I be a condition for the planting of a new, better cause? True compassion is the wish for others to be free from suffering and its causes. It actively seeks to be the warm breeze, not a judgment that reinforces the cold. Let's end with a final, holistic metaphor for this part. See the world as a grand, interconnected symphony. Each being is an instrument, playing the melody of their own karmic tendencies. The sound you make is your personal experience. But all these melodies combine to create the symphony of the world. Sometimes harmonious, sometimes cacophonous. Your practice is to learn to play your instrument skillfully, to tune it to the key of compassion and wisdom. As you do, your melody naturally harmonizes with other skillful players. You may not be able to stop another instrument from playing a discordant note, but your clear, steady note can provide a reference point of peace for the whole orchestra. And sometimes, a single, beautifully played note can inspire an entire section to find the right key. You are not alone in this field of karma. You are a vital note in a vast, evolving song. Play your part with mindful care. Let us now turn inward, to the most intimate arena where karma is generated and experienced, the mind itself. The Buddha's revolutionary insight was that the world we experience is profoundly shaped by the mind. All phenomena are preceded by the mind, led by the mind, made of the mind, as the Dhammapada opens. This is not a philosophical abstraction. It is the operational level of karma. Your subjective world, your feelings of happiness, sorrow, peace, or anxiety, is the direct, moment-to-moment fruition of the mind's activity. Think of your mind as a master chef in a vast, empty kitchen. The raw ingredients are the sensory contacts of life, sights, sounds, smells, tastes, touches, and thoughts. These are neutral. The chef's skill, or lack thereof, is your mental habit, your karmic tendency. A skilled chef, a mindful mind, takes the ingredient of a critical comment and, with the spices of patience and investigation, creates a dish of learning or compassionate understanding. An unskilled chef, a reactive mind, takes the same ingredient and, with the poisons of resentment and self-pity, creates a toxic stew of suffering. The kitchen is yours. The ingredients arrive unbidden. But the cooking, the karmic processing, is entirely under your command. The flavor of your experience is the dish you have prepared for yourself to taste. This is where meditation ceases to be a separate practice and becomes essential training in karmic literacy. Meditation is not about achieving a blank mind. It is the practice of sitting in the kitchen and watching the chef at work. You see which spices are reached for automatically. You learn to pause before adding poison. You develop the skill to choose a different, more nourishing recipe. Let me illustrate with a story about this internal alchemy. A woman named Anya lived in a city, but her inner life was like a vast plain subject to sudden storms. She had an inner weather vane that pointed to her emotional climate. For years, it spun wildly. A frown from her boss would trigger a cold front of anxiety. A traffic jam would bring a gust of frustration. A remembered compliment might bring a fleeting, weak sun. One day, she visited an old gardener who seemed to have a permanent, gentle climate around him, regardless of the actual weather. She asked his secret. He pointed to a simple weather vane in his garden, but it was not pointing at the sky. It was pointing at his own chest. "I used to be like you," he said. "My vane pointed outward, reacting to every wind. Then I learned to turn it inward. Now, it points to the source of my weather, my own heart. When I feel a cold front of anger coming, I don't look for who brought it. I look inward. I breathe warmth onto that cold place. When a storm of worry gathers, I don't watch the clouds. I anchor myself in the steady earth of my breath. The outer winds still blow, but my inner climate is my responsibility to tend." Anya began this practice. It was difficult. When the boss frowned, her old vane tried to spin outward toward blame. But she remembered, and turned it inward. She felt the clench of fear in her belly. She breathed into it, not to erase it, but to hold it in a warmer, larger space. The cold front passed through without settling into a season of dread. She was changing her karmic habit pattern from reaction to mindful response. The external causes remained, but her internal effects were transforming. This story leads us to a vital distinction between vipaka and kama. Vipaka is the result, the fruit. The boss's frown is a vipaka from past relational karma. Your feeling of fear in the belly is the initial, sensory vipaka. But what happens next? That is where new karma is created. If you dwell on the fear, weave stories of being fired, and snap at a colleague, you are planting powerful new seeds of negativity. If you acknowledge the fear with mindfulness and return to your task with steadiness, you are planting seeds of equanimity and clarity. The past fruit is already tasted. The new seed is your freedom. Now, let's explore a deeper layer, the karmic power of attention. Where you place your attention is where you pour the water of consciousness. What you water, grows. An elder had 2 inner gardens. The first garden was a plot of well-tended, beautiful memories, moments of kindness received, small victories of integrity, instances of natural beauty that had moved him. He visited this garden often, especially in quiet evenings. He would walk its paths, not with clinging, but with a grateful heart, watering these memories with the appreciation of his present attention. The second garden was a neglected patch of thorny memories, past hurts, failures, embarrassments. For years, he had avoided it, fearing the pain. But in doing so, the thorns grew wild and dense in the shadows. A wise friend suggested not avoidance, but a different kind of tending. "The thorns are not your enemies," she said. "They are lessons waiting to be understood. But you must not water them with resentment. Water them with the light of understanding." The next time a thorny memory arose, instead of pushing it away or drowning in its pain, he did something new. He gently placed his attention on it, as a botanist might study a peculiar plant. "Ah, this is the memory of when I felt betrayed. Where do I feel it in my body? What did it teach me about trust? About my own expectations?" He watered it not with the bitter water of regret, but with the clear water of mindful inquiry. Under this new attention, something shifted. The thorns didn't vanish, but they lost their power to wound. Some even revealed a hidden flower, a lesson in resilience or forgiveness. By changing how he attended to his past, he changed its karmic charge in his present. Your attention is your most sacred karmic tool. Every time you choose to dwell on a grievance, you are watering the seed of resentment. Every time you choose to notice the warmth of the sun or a friend's smile, you are watering the seed of joy. You are, in every moment, selectively gardening your future mind state. Let's conclude this part with a final, potent metaphor for the meditative mind working with karma. Imagine your stream of consciousness is a river. Floating on it are leaves, your thoughts, feelings, memories. Unwholesome karma is the habit of climbing onto every leaf that floats by, especially the ugly, painful ones, and riding it downstream, getting caught in whirlpools of obsession. Mindfulness is the practice of building a small, stable raft in the river, the raft of anchored awareness. You sit on the raft. You see the leaves, the angry thought, the anxious feeling, float by. You acknowledge them. Ah, a leaf of anger. But you do not climb on. You let it float past. By not engaging, by not fueling it with more mental energy, you let that particular karmic current lose its power. It floats on and dissolves downstream. Your raft remains, stable in the present. This is how, through meditation, we cease to create new negative karma from the old results that bubble up. We break the chain. The battlefield of karma is right here, between your ears and within your heart. And the most powerful weapon for good you possess is your own aware, compassionate attention. We have navigated the personal and the internal. Now, let's expand our gaze to the horizon of a lifetime, and beyond. A question often arises: if there is no permanent soul, no self that travels unchanged from life to life, anatta, then what reincarnates? What carries the karmic imprint? This is a profound and subtle point, and it gets to the very heart of the Buddhist view of continuity. Imagine a flame being passed from one candle to the next. The second candle lights. Is it the same flame? It is not. The molecules, the heat, are new. Yet, there is a causal continuity. Without the first flame, the second would not be lit. The first flame is the necessary and sufficient cause for the second. But there is no flame essence that jumps across. Now, imagine this process not just once, but in an endless series, candle to candle to candle. This is sasra, the cyclical flow of birth and becoming. What is reborn is not a thing, but a process, a stream of conditioned consciousness, carrying the momentum of its past intentions, like a river carries the imprint of the mountains it has eroded. Karma is the momentum. It is the habit energy, the tendencies, sakra, that shape the next moment of consciousness, and ultimately, the next constellation of mind and body. There is no little you being sent somewhere. There is the ceaseless flow of cause and effect, where the dominant qualities of your mind in this life become the shaping conditions for the next. It is like a billiard ball in motion. Its current direction and spin, karma, determine its path after it strikes the cushion, death, and rebounds. Let's explore this with a story that avoids literalism and points to the quality of continuity. A master musician composed a complex, haunting melody. He played it with a particular feeling, a longing mixed with hope. He played it so often that the melody seemed to live in the fibers of his instrument and in the very air of his room. When he passed away, his favorite student, who had listened for years, took up the instrument. Sitting in the same room, she began to play. Without consciously recalling the notes, her fingers found the old master's melody. And in her heart, she felt not just the notes, but the echo of that longing and hope, though now blended with her own spirit of gentle curiosity. The master was gone. His self did not travel into the student. But the vibration he set in motion, the melody, the emotional tone, found a receptive medium in the student's attentive heart and trained hands, and continued to resonate. Our karmic tendencies are like that melody. At death, the personal musician. The particular arrangement of the 5 aggregates ceases. But the melody of our deepest habits, the vibration of our most persistent intentions, flows on, seeking a new instrument, a new birth, through which to express itself. You are not the old musician. But you are the new musician playing, and for a time, being shaped by the old melody. Your practice is to learn the melody so well that you can begin to improvise, to change its key, and eventually, to compose a new song entirely. The Song of Liberation. This perspective should not foster a morbid obsession with future lives. The Buddha was pragmatic. The most important life to work with is this one. The future will be the result of the present. If you cultivate goodness, clarity, and wisdom now, the momentum you create is one of goodness, clarity, and wisdom. That is your best assurance for any future. Now, let's address a related and practical question. How do we make peace with the seemingly random, unfair suffering in the world? If karma is personal, why do innocent children suffer? Why do natural disasters strike? First, Buddhism does not claim that every single experience is the direct result of your personal past karma. That would be a cruel and simplistic fatalism. The Buddha taught that there are 5 orders or processes, niyama, that govern phenomena: physical laws, biological laws, psychological laws, karma. The laws of mind, and the law of spiritual causation. A volcano erupts due to physical/geological laws, yutu niyama. A child inherits a genetic disease due to biological laws, bija niyama. These are collective, impersonal processes. However, your particular birth as a human susceptible to volcanoes and disease is influenced by karma, kama niyama. And most importantly, your psychological experience of the event, your fear, your courage, your compassion in response, is entirely the domain of karma. 2 people lose their homes in the same flood. One is crushed by despair and bitterness. The other, while grieving, finds purpose in helping neighbors and rebuilding community. The flood is the shared condition. The suffering and the meaning are shaped by personal karmic habits of mind. Here is a story that illustrates finding meaning within shared adversity. An earthquake destroyed a village temple, shattering its ancient, beloved statue of the Buddha. The villagers were heartbroken. They saw only loss, the end of a sacred presence. An old monk who had traveled through the ruins gathered the pieces. He did not try to glue the statue back together. Instead, with the villagers, he built a simple new shrine. In the center, he placed a large, open bowl. Then, carefully, he laid all the broken pieces of the old statue into the bowl, creating a mosaic of fragments. Before, he said, we had a perfect statue, and our devotion was sometimes distant, formal. Now, look. We have all the pieces of the sacred, but they are broken and mixed. To see the whole, you must use the eyes of your heart. You must piece it together inside you. And this bowl, he said, pointing to the container that now held the fragments, this community holding each other up, this is the new, living shrine. The earthquake was a natural disaster, Yutunayama. The broken statue was a result. But the villagers' initial despair was a karmic habit of attachment to form. The monks' response, and their eventual joining in, planted new karma of resilience, creative meaning-making, and deeper, internalized devotion. The tragedy became a condition for a more profound understanding. Our karma is not in the disaster, but in what we build from the pieces. This brings us to the ultimate goal, not just better karma, but the end of karmic conditioning altogether. Nibbana. It is the blowing out of the fires of greed, hatred, and delusion that fuel the karmic process. It is the point where the candle flame is not passed on, not because it is extinguished in darkness, but because it has realized its nature as boundless, unconditioned space. The river of conditioned existence flows into the ocean of the unconditioned. But for us, here and now, the path is about skillfulness. It is about using the understanding of karma not as a theory, but as a compass for daily living. In our final parts, we will bring all of this home to the practical, moment-to-moment choices of your life. Let us now bring this understanding from the vast horizons of time and nature into the simple, tangible reality of this day, this hour, this very breath. How does one live, knowing karma is the law of the mind's universe? It is not about walking on eggshells, afraid of making a mistake. It is about walking with a profound and gentle awareness, like a gardener moving through a beloved garden, knowing that every touch matters. The practice begins with heedfulness, apamita. This is the opposite of carelessness. It is a sustained, gentle attention to the seeds you are holding in your hand. It is the mental pause before you speak, the moment of recognition when a habitual impulse arises. This heedfulness is not anxiety. It is the clear-eyed attention of a craftsman to her tools. You are the craftsman of your life. Your intentions are your most precious tools. Think of your day as a long, blank scroll. Your heedful awareness is the ink. Every moment is a character you write upon it. With heedlessness, the writing is smeared, reactive, a story you may not wish to read later. With heedfulness, each character, each choice to be patient instead of sharp, to be generous instead of withholding, to listen instead of planning your reply, is written with clarity. At the end of the day, the scroll contains the story of a life lived with purpose. At the end of a lifetime, it is the volume of your being. You are the author. Heedfulness is your pen. Let me share a story about the power of this small, daily heedfulness. In a city of chaos, there was one tranquil house. A traveler asked the owner her secret. She smiled and pointed to her front gate. "It's because of my gatekeeper," she said. The traveler looked. He saw no armed guard, only a simple, mindful old man sitting by the open gate. "What does he do?" the traveler asked. "His only job," said the woman, "is to recognize what seeks to enter. He is not to judge it as good or bad, but to know its nature. When a visitor of haste arrives, he acknowledges it. Ah, haste is here." This simple acknowledgement often makes haste slow down. When resentment storms up, he says, "I see you, resentment." He does not block it forcefully, but by recognizing it, he prevents it from barging in unseen and setting the furniture on fire. When joy or curiosity comes, he welcomes them warmly by name, and they fill the house. He is just the gatekeeper of attention. Because he is heedful, the household within remains peaceful. Our senses are the gates to our inner house. Heedfulness is that gatekeeper. It does not suppress or condemn the visitors, the thoughts, emotions, and impulses. It simply, clearly, recognizes them for what they are. Ah, this is worry. This is desire. This is kindness. This mere recognition, this naming, creates a space. In that space, you are no longer the visitor. You are the aware space itself. And from that space, you can choose whether to invite that visitor in to stay, or to let it pass on through. This is the minute-to-minute practice of karma. Being the gatekeeper of your own mind. From heedfulness flows natural virtue, sila. This is not a rigid morality of shoulds born from fear of sin. It is the natural, organic result of understanding cause and effect. When you see clearly that harsh speech plants seeds of alienation and internal agitation, abstaining from it becomes an act of self-care and kindness to others, not a rule. When you see that taking what is not given entangles you in a web of fear and secrecy, honesty becomes a commitment to inner freedom. Virtue in Buddhism is the hygiene of the heart. You keep your intentions clean not to please an authority, but because you understand that a clean heart is a peaceful, resilient heart. Let's see this in a story about the roots of action. Two builders were hired to construct homes on the same street. The first, Finn, saw only the paycheck. He cut corners. He used cheap, rotten wood behind the plaster. He worked with a mind of lack and hurry, thinking only of finishing fast. The second, Eris, saw his task differently. A family will live here, he thought. Children will grow, memories will be made. This wood will shelter dreams. He chose sound materials. He took care with every joint, even the ones no one would see. He worked with a mind of care and offering. Years later, a great storm swept the street. Finn's house groaned, its walls cracked, its roof leaked miserably. The family within was frightened, cold, and felt betrayed by the very walls that should have protected them. Eris's house stood firm. It was a sanctuary. The family felt safe, grateful, and connected. The storm is the inevitable stress and challenge of life, dukkha. The house is your character, built by your daily actions. The quality of the materials is the quality of your intentions. The care in the unseen joints is your virtue in private moments. When the storms come, and they will, the house built with the mindful, wholesome intentions of care and integrity will be your shelter. The house built with the careless, selfish intentions will collapse into suffering around you. Virtue is not about being good. It is about being solid, real, and resilient. You build your own house, every single day. Now, what about when we fail? When we are heedless, when we speak harshly, act greedily. This is where the concept of sin breeds guilt and hiding. The concept of karma offers a path of repair, wise regret and resolution. Wise regret, kakaka, is not guilt. Guilt says, I am bad. It fixates on the self and paralyzes. Wise regret says, that action was unskillful. It caused harm. It focuses on the deed and energizes change. It is the painful but necessary recognition that you have planted a thorn seed. The next step is the resolve, panasaga, not to water it, and to plant a flower seed right next to it. The practice is straightforward. When you see the fault, 1. Acknowledge it honestly to yourself. 2. Feel the sincere regret for the harm caused. 3. Resolve firmly, but gently, to refrain from that action in the future. 4. If possible, make amends to those harmed. 5. Actively cultivate the opposite quality. If you were selfish, do something generous. If you were angry, practice loving-kindness meditation. This process doesn't erase the old seed. It changes the soil. It builds a new, positive karmic momentum that can surround and transform the old energy. This is the practical, forgiving heart of the teaching. You are always only one mindful breath away from a new beginning. We have gathered the tools, heedfulness, virtue, wise regret. Now, let us integrate them into the seamless flow of a life lived awake. This is the essence of mindfulness, sati, applied to karma. Mindfulness is the luminous awareness that illuminates the karmic process as it happens. It is the light by which you see the seed in your hand before you plant it, and the sprout as it breaks ground. Without mindfulness, karma is an unconscious, automatic process. We react out of habit, planting seeds we don't see, and then wonder why our garden is overgrown with weeds. With mindfulness, karma becomes a conscious, creative process. We see the chain, stimulus, feeling, habitual reaction. And in that seeing, a gap appears. In that gap, there is choice. Imagine you are walking along a familiar forest path. For years, at a certain fork, you have always turned left, following a deep, worn groove. That groove is your karmic habit. One day, you are walking mindfully. You arrive at the fork. You see the groove leading left. You also see, clearly for the first time, the path to the right, bathed in dappled light. Mindfulness doesn't force you to go right. It simply allows you to see that you have a choice. You are not compelled by the groove. You can choose to step out of it and take the right-hand path. That conscious choice is the moment you change your karma. Let me share a story about breaking a deep karmic groove. A man lived at the bottom of a tall, dark tower with a single spiral staircase. Every morning, driven by a deep, anxious habit, he would climb the stairs. At the top, he would look out a window at the same bleak, gray landscape, feel the same crushing despair, and then climb back down, defeated. This was his life's pattern. One day, as he climbed, he was so tired that he paused to rest on a step. He had never paused before. In that pause, he truly looked at the step beneath his feet. He saw the grain of the stone, worn smooth by his countless journeys. He heard the silence of the tower. He felt the ache in his legs. This was mindfulness. Simple, non-judgmental awareness of the present step. The next day, he paused again. This time, he noticed a small, narrow door in the wall of the staircase, one he had always rushed past. Curiosity, a new visitor, arose. He opened the door. It led not to another room, but to a small, hidden balcony. On this balcony was a single pot with a seedling. He had no idea how it got there. He began to pause every day at this door. He would water the seedling. He stopped feeling compelled to climb all the way to the top. His karma, the compulsive climb to despair, was broken, not by fighting it, but by interrupting it with awareness. He found a new groove, the pause, the balcony, the care for a growing thing. The gray landscape at the top lost its power because he had found meaning and beauty on a step halfway up. Your life is filled with such spiral staircases, habits of thought, communication, and action that lead to predictable suffering. Mindfulness is the pause. It is the willingness to truly feel the step beneath you, to look for the hidden door. The new action, watering the seedling, is the cultivation of the wholesome. You change your karma by changing your daily rituals of attention. This brings us to the culmination of the path, wisdom, panna. Heedfulness and mindfulness show you the process. Wisdom is the deep, liberating understanding of its nature. It is the insight that sees all karmic formations as impermanent, anicca, unsatisfactory when clung to, dukkha, and not self, anatta. This wisdom is what ultimately unravels the knot. When you see with wisdom, you see that the you who is angry is a temporary constellation of conditions, a memory, a bodily sensation, a label. It arises and will pass. Seeing this, you stop identifying with it, I am angry. Instead, you see it, there is anger. This disidentification is a profound karmic shift. You are no longer fueling that anger being with your sense of self. You are allowing it to be a passing weather pattern in the vast sky of your awareness. This is how wisdom purifies karma at its root. Let's explore this with one last, profound story. A weaver was renowned for her beautiful, intricate tapestries. She would become completely absorbed in her work, believing fully in the figures she wove. Heroes, monsters, gardens, and storms. She would laugh with the heroes, tremble before the monsters, long for the gardens, and hide from the storms. Her life was the drama of the tapestry. One day, after a particularly exhausting scene involving a monster, her hand slipped. The shuttle fell. In the moment of silence that followed, she looked up from the loom. For the first time, she saw not just the emerging picture, but the whole apparatus. The warp thread stretched taut, the weave of the weft, her own hands holding the tools. In that moment of sheer awareness, she had a realization. The hero is just a pattern of red and gold thread. The monster is a knot of black and green. The garden is a sequence of carefully placed greens and browns. None of it is solid. All of it is dependent on the threads, the loom, and my moving hands. It is all a beautiful, empty appearance. She returned to weaving. The pattern still appeared. Heroes, monsters, gardens. But she no longer believed in their solid, independent reality. She wove with more lightness, more playfulness, and infinite compassion for the figures, because she knew their true nature, interdependent patterns arising in awareness. She was free within the weaving. Our life is the tapestry. Our karma is the pattern we are weaving. Wisdom is that moment of looking up and seeing the loom, seeing the impersonal, conditioned, empty nature of all the elements. With this wisdom, you can engage in life fully. You can work to create beautiful patterns, wholesome karma. You can work to untangle knots, purification. But you do so without the suffering of believing the drama is ultimately, solidly real. You are free to weave with love, because you are no longer trapped in the picture. This is the ultimate safety. It is not a safety from life's pains, but a safety within them. It is the unshakable peace of knowing the nature of the game. Let us now gather all that we have explored into a single, quiet breath. Here, in this moment, you are the inheritor of your past and the author of your future. But more importantly, you are the aware presence in which both unfold. The question of sin has dissolved, replaced by a map of profound causality. You are not being judged. You are being taught, by life itself, by the natural feedback of your own heart. Each moment of suffering is not a punishment, but a lesson in the law of cause and effect. Each moment of peace is the fruit of a seed of wisdom you once planted. So, how do you walk forward? Walk lightly. Carry the understanding of karma not as a heavy ledger, but as a liberating truth. You are free. Free to choose your next intention. Free to plant a new seed. This freedom is your greatest responsibility and your most sacred opportunity. Begin simply. Be the gatekeeper of your senses. When anger knocks, acknowledge it at the gate. I see you, anger. This simple recognition creates the space to choose. Will you invite it in for tea, or will you let it pass on down the street? Be the gardener of your mind. When you notice a weed of resentment sprouting, don't curse the weed. Gently uproot it and place a seed of forgiveness in the soil instead. Be the weaver who sees the loom. When you get caught in the drama of your own story, your pains, your roles, your triumphs, remember to look up. See the threads. See the patterns arising and passing. This is not indifference. This is the deepest compassion, for yourself and for all beings caught in their own weaving. Do not strive for perfection. Strive for awareness. A single moment of true heedfulness, where you choose patience over reaction, is a victory more radiant than 1,000 mechanical good deeds. This path is not about building a flawless statue of yourself. It is about the sincere, humble, and courageous process of cleaning the mirror of your heart, so it may reflect reality clearly. So, as we end our time together in the monk's temple, I offer you this. Take this understanding as a gentle companion. When fear arises, remember the lake and the pebble. Your mind is vast enough to hold the ripple without becoming the storm. When confusion arises, remember the seed. What are you holding in the palm of your intention right now? When regret arises, remember the path of the two potters. You can always begin again with a new quality of touch. You are the gardener, the potter, the weaver, the gatekeeper, and the aware sky. This human life is your field of practice. Tend it with kindness, work it with wisdom, and behold it with peace. May this understanding of karma free you from the weight of sin and guilt. May it empower you with the clarity of cause and effect. May it inspire you to plant seeds of boundless kindness, for in doing so, you cultivate a garden not only for yourself, but for all who walk this path of life beside you. May you be happy. May you be peaceful. May you be free. Thank you for your presence. The temple is always here, in the stillness of your own listening heart. Rest well.